In the quiet town of Highland, Utah, a friendship turned deadly in one of the most bizarre cases of premeditated murder we've seen. This isn't just a story about death, it's about psychological manipulation, years of deception, and the horrifying betrayal of trust by someone who was trained to heal, not harm. I'm Tracy, and this is Chasing, where we expose the worst of humanity through the criminal mind. Today's episode delves into a case that challenges our understanding of trust, medicine, and the horrifying depths of deception. What you're about to hear isn't just disturbing, it's almost unfathomable. How could someone be convinced they were dying when they were completely healthy? How could years of hospital visits, medications, and treatments all be part of an elaborate lie? And who would orchestrate such a monstrous deception? The answers reveal a darkness that few of us can comprehend. On August 12th, 2024, police and firefighters responded to a medical emergency at a home in Highland, Utah. Inside, they found 38-year-old Kaycee Lyn Terry unconscious and struggling to breathe. Standing over her was her friend, 47-year-old Meggan Randall Sundwall, a registered nurse. Also present were Sundwall's parents. When Casey's uncle arrived, he immediately called 911. Meggan informed him that Kaycee had been unresponsive for a couple of hours. During the 911 call, Kaycee's uncle told the dispatcher that Kaycee had major health issues, and it sounds like she's drowning. But when paramedics arrived, things took a strange turn. Meggan and her parents began arguing with them, claiming Kaycee had a do not resuscitate order and didn't want to go to the hospital. Medical staff would later confirm that no such order existed, and Meggan had never been given power of attorney for Kaycee. This detail is crucial. A DNR order is a legal instruction to withhold cardiopulmonary resuscitation or advanced cardiac life support. It's a serious medical directive that requires proper documentation. The fact that Meggan falsely claimed one existed shows a calculated effort to prevent medical intervention that could have saved Kaycee's life. At the hospital, doctors made a disturbing discovery. Kaycee's blood sugar level was 14, dangerously low. Police found a diabetic needle at the scene, but Kaycee wasn't diabetic. A blood glucose monitor showed 19 readings in just 10 hours, with the last three simply reading low, meaning below 19. According to the investigation, Kaycee would have been unconscious and unable to test her own blood sugar at that time. Kaycee never regained consciousness and was declared brain dead. She died on August 15th, 2024. But this wasn't a sudden tragedy. Evidence suggests it was the culmination of a years-long plot. I want you to stop and consider something for a moment. Imagine believing, for years, that your body was betraying you, that cancer was spreading through your blood, that your organs were failing one by one. Imagine the constant fear, the grief for a future you'll never have, the physical pain and exhaustion from treatments. Now imagine discovering that none of it was real, that the person you trusted most had orchestrated the entire thing. That's the horrifying reality that investigators uncovered in the wake of Kaycee Terry's death. We were all blown away that she didn't have cancer, that she didn't have leukemia, said one family member in a news interview following the arrest. The medical examiner had found something that should have been impossible. A woman who believed she was dying of multiple terminal illnesses was, in fact, completely healthy. Until, that is, she was poisoned. Investigators discovered that Meggan Sundwall had spent nearly 5 years convincing Kaycee she was terminally ill. They found over 28,000 text messages between the two women, starting in December 2019. Text after text showed Meggan describing different ways she would kill herself if she were in Kaycee's position and offering to help Kaycee die. The messages also revealed that Meggan and her husband were having financial problems, which she believed would be solved if Kaycee died and she received a life insurance payout. On the day Kaycee died, Meggan had texted her, Do you want to take some promethazine when I get there so that you are asleep when this is happening? Hours later, around 2 p.m., Megan texted her mother saying she couldn't get Kaycee to wake up. Yet Megan, a trained nurse, didn't call for medical help. It would be 7 more hours before Kaycee's uncle discovered her and called 911. According to Kaycee's sister, Megan had been bringing insulin home and trying to talk Kaycee into treatments to help end her suffering for years. Kaycee's sister had even moved her out of the shared apartment due to these concerns. But by then, the psychological damage was done. Kaycee genuinely believed she was dying. What we're seeing here is a horrifying form of medical manipulation that combined elements of Munchausen by proxy with cold, calculated murder for financial gain. Investigators discovered that Megan was continuously searching for Kaycee's life insurance policy after her death. In a cruel twist of irony, according to Kaycee's sister, there never was a life insurance policy. Megan had killed her friend for nothing. On March 14th, 2025, police arrested Meggan Randall Sundwall. She was booked into the Utah County Jail on charges of aggravated murder and obstruction of justice. But this case leaves us with disturbing questions that defy easy answers. How could someone be convinced they were dying when they were perfectly healthy? How could this deception persist for years without any medical professional intervening? The evidence suggests an elaborate web of deception that went far beyond mere words. Kaycee's social media accounts are filled with photos of her in hospital beds, connected to IVs, wearing medical devices. In one photo from January 2020, she's seen with what appears to be a heart monitor. Another shows her with what she claimed was a port for chemotherapy treatments. On February 11th, 2020, Kaycee posted, "I was able to get my port this morning, and I am grateful for my friends and all the support I had today. I feel bad because Meg was there, but she wasn't in the picture because the nurse took it before she got in the room." Later that same day, she posted, "Tonight I couldn't breathe and my chest felt super heavy. They did blood work. It came back abnormal, so they just did a CT scan, and they are thinking that my lung has collapsed. They found a huge mass on my liver." On February 21st, 2020, she wrote, "I had my first chemo treatment yesterday. It was no fun." These weren't just stories. Kaycee appeared to be experiencing real medical interventions. She mentioned specific medications, treatments, and procedures with the familiarity of someone truly undergoing them. So, how was this possible? Several disturbing possibilities emerge from the investigation. First, as a registered nurse, Megan would have had access to medical equipment, terminology, and potentially medications. She could have administered IVs, performed blood tests, and even staged hospital like scenarios in private settings. Second, Megan could have manipulated actual medical visits. By accompanying Kaycee to appointments, she could have potentially intercepted or reinterpreted information from doctors. In vulnerable patients, this technique, called medical gaslighting, can be devastatingly effective. Third, and perhaps most disturbing, is the possibility that Megan induced actual symptoms in Kaycee through slow poisoning or medication. These real symptoms would have reinforced Kaycee's belief in her illness. Detectives were told by Kaycee's family and friends that Megan had been trying to kill Kaycee with insulin for years, police stated in their report. This suggests a long-term campaign of not just psychological manipulation, but physical harm as well. Former friend Nico Anderson told reporters, "Meg got into her life and has persuaded and convinced Kaycee that she was sick and that she was dying, and there was nothing wrong with her, and we didn't know that until after she passed." In Kaycee's fundraiser posts, she described detailed medical experiences. "My white count has gone from 340,000 to over 400,000, which is in range of someone with leukemia. They started me on some medication to help thicken my blood, so we will be able to do the spleen removal surgery. The doctors are giving me a 15% chance of surviving the spleen surgery, so I'm a little nervous on doing it." This level of detail suggests either extraordinary research on Kaycee's part or more likely, coaching from someone with medical knowledge. Perhaps the most chilling aspect is how the medical system itself could fail to identify this deception. Did Kaycee ever see legitimate doctors who could have told her she was healthy? If so, did Meggan intercept or reframe those interactions? Or was Kaycee guided to non legitimate sources of medical care, perhaps friends or associates of Meggan's? The fact that Kaycee had photos in what appear to be actual medical facilities raises disturbing questions about how far this deception went and who else might have been involved or fooled along the way. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this case is who Kaycee Terry really was. Her obituary describes her as someone who dreamed of being a mother. Though she never had children of her own, she filled the role of mom to many kids. She had worked for a company called Chrysalis, helping disabled adults, and she often said it didn't feel like she was working because she just loved everyone she was with. Friend Nico Anderson, who had known Kaycee for nearly 20 years, was devastated. "We have loved each other dearly," she told reporters. The psychological aspects of this case are particularly haunting. In her Facebook posts, Kaycee described contemplating hospice care at age 33, writing, "My team of doctors suggested that I go on hospice, so I have spent a lot of my time thinking about that. That's a huge decision for only being 33. I feel like I haven't really even had a whole lot of time to experience life yet." This reflects the profound tragedy of Kaycee's situation. She believed she was dying and grieved for the life she would never have, while being perfectly healthy. She even mentioned getting her patriarchal blessing, which she said confirmed she didn't have a whole lot of time left. What we're witnessing in this case appears to be a devastating form of coercive control. When someone with medical authority, in this case, a nurse, makes claims about your health, there's an inherent trust. Add in physical symptoms that may have been deliberately induced, in actual medical settings and equipment, and the victim would have little reason to question what they're experiencing. What makes this case even more disturbing is how the digital trail shows the calculated nature of Meggan's alleged actions. After Kaycee's death, evidence shows Meggan deleted more than 900 texts from her phone. She continued searching for the non existent life insurance policy. This wasn't a crime of passion or a momentary lapse in judgment. It appears to have been a years long campaign with a clear financial motive. The healthcare system also bears scrutiny here. How could someone receive treatments for cancer they didn't have? How could they discuss hospice care for a terminal condition that didn't exist? The case raises alarming questions about potential vulnerabilities in how medical information is verified and shared. As this case moves through the courts, it serves as a chilling reminder of human vulnerability. Most of us trust our medical providers implicitly. We believe our friends want what's best for us. Kaycee Terry's story shows how catastrophic the consequences can be when that trust is exploited by someone with both medical knowledge and malicious intent. The case against Meggan Randall Sundwall is currently proceeding through the Utah court system. If convicted of aggravated murder, she could face life in prison or even the death penalty. I'm Tracy. I'm Tracy, and this is Chasing. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.